The following is a production of Fenix Media. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the company or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners. Welcome back, everybody, to You Bet Your Ass, a Patreon exclusive podcast where we cover the week's biggest sports bets. Of course, we're broadcasting live from the National Automobile Museum in downtown Reno. If you want to get tickets or information to the Auto Museum, just visit automuseum.org. Now, I'm Kristian Fenix, and with me is the Dennis Miller to my Al Michaels, the G-Man. How you doing, G-Man?
Hey, doing good. Dennis Miller. I kind of like Dennis Miller. He was of course, a comedian. Yeah. And found his way on Monday Night Football.
Didn't provide a whole lot of color commentary as far as football insight, but it had a few quips in there that made it entertaining. But I kind of see why it didn't work out in the long run.
Yeah, because who knows what the executives were trying to do at that time, but it was probably just to provide a little bit of levity.
Oh, I'm sure.
In the room, and kind of like having somebody that sits at home, kind of taking a little bit of the edge off the broadcast.
Well, it's sort of like what they're doing with the Eli and Peyton Monday night broadcast, where they're sitting at home and just, shooting the breeze and talking about whatever strikes their fancy and bring on special guests. And
Eli came up this week. Do you know that?
No.
He got in trouble. He did. He got in trouble because they were doing the show. The brothers were doing the show. And apparently there was a old, video, of a young Philadelphia Eagles fan back at a game that the Giants were in, giving him the double bird.
Oh. And
so they were talking about that. And then Eli was just kind of like, I kind of want to flip that kid back off, and his brother's like, do it. And then he was like, should I? Should I? They can probably blur it out, right? And so he went ahead and gave him the double banger, on live TV. Yeah. They can't blur out live TV.
No. Well, they just got in trouble a couple weeks ago for Marshawn Lynch dropping the F-bomb. And so they should realize that. But at the same time, it's cable TV, so, yeah.
Well, apparently there were 3 people that complained to the FCC about it. And even though it is cable, if you're doing something live, you're still not supposed to do that. Yeah. So that being said, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, we're not regulated by the FCC because we're digital. So
That's right.
We absolutely can.
I still won't do it.
It's not the old radio days where we had to be very careful about what we said.
At least right now, I won't do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, folks, it is NFL Week 10, but before we get to those picks, we want to take a look back a little bit on last week's breakdown. You broke even, 7 for 7, and overall you're at 49.26% win percentage, almost to that 500 mark. And I have no doubt within the next few weeks we'll get over that and get to where it's a little more comfortable of what we're used to.
Yeah, we keep climbing back. First, as we talked about, the first few weeks with my schedule, I wasn't really able to focus as much on the breakdowns. And last week was pretty tough, as I pointed out. After the morning games, it was 3 and 6, and I was like, "Oh no, one of those weeks." And so I had a little comeback in the afternoon games.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness, exactly.
And along those lines, we like to do the $2 tally. That is one of those things that if you're just sort of the fair weather bettor and want to place $2 on each of the bets that we lay out, where you would stand at this point. And right now at this point in the season, through NFL Week 9, you would have paid $272. You would have won back $254.60. You'd only be down $17.40. But of course, we talk the entire season, not just one-offs. Of course, last week you would have broken even. So, it's, close
almost
to even.
Yeah, pretty close.
Because the payout is, house has to take a little bit of their cut. So.
Yeah, it would have been what is called an acceptable loss.
Exactly. But ultimately 14 games, $28 for the week. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be worse. I was reading it was a tough week for everybody. I can't remember the name of the journalist, but of course CBS Sports Line, and they all have these sports writers, that make their picks and stuff. And there was a couple of guys that started out like I did last year, 70%. Mm-hmm. And so that being said, that was, I think, after 4 weeks. And now after that, the record was 56-51 or something like that. So these last few weeks have been brutal, for a lot of the people that have been picking. But we've been doing okay, in spite of a lot of the surprises that have happened. We're hovering around 50%, a little bit over 50%. 2 weeks ago, or was it last week? Last week, 10-5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, again, things are shaping up.
Exactly, and not only that, but it'd be interesting to go back and take a look at all of the big sports bettors, all the big names that are out there, and see where they're at percentage-wise on the season compared to, where you're at. And I can't imagine it's too far off.
Yeah, and there are those that, of course, that are around 40% or worse.
Right.
And of course, that's the fun, of it. I'm sure around the office they're getting ridiculed and stuff, and just like, why are you working here?
Well, as we like to do along those lines, give a little, a few disclaimers as far as, don't bet more than you're willing to lose. All of this is for entertainment purposes. It's all about fun. And then always take a look at the in-play betting. It's one of those things where we give the information up through Thursday midday, but things can change between Thursday and Sunday. So it really does help to go in, and even if you've set your bets based on what we've told you, take a look at in-play. Change your bet up a little bit at halftime or based on the quarter, or, things that we talked about in the Sports Betting for Dummies segment last week. And, you can hedge those bets. You can double those bets if you're lucky. But, worst case scenario, you end up kind of breaking even, if that's the way it goes with the in-play compared to what you placed ahead of time.
Yeah, they do bump up the VIG by a nickel, so instead of it minus 110, it's 115, typically on the in plays, and those adjust too. So they've made some adjustments in the in play where, it used to be just flat minus 115, but now there could be a line change and they'll go ahead and make it minus 130, and then even money on the other side, which depending on which side that you're interested in, could be good or could be bad, but I like to have a kind of a like we do, where before the game kicks off, this is the team that I would pick. But if I have funds in play, I don't necessarily make that bet, because you'd be surprised how many times, no matter which side that you're on during the course of the game, if you're patient, a lot of times you'll get a better number. Mm-hmm. And of course, let's say that there was a game that was just a pick 'em, and then team A scores first, and so then you're going to probably be getting 4 points or more on the other team, depending on what point of how much time the game has elapsed.
Right.
And but that means that your team's behind now instead of being even.
Right, and you're betting on the fact that they come back and cover that, whatever that new spread is that.
Yeah. So in this case, let's say the Cardinals, they're minus 10.5. And so if you had, saying I want to bet on the Cardinals, but I think that line's a little bit too high.
Right.
And so you're literally rooting for that other team to come out and say, score 10 points in the first quarter. Cardinals are down by 10, and they're at home though. And there's been, say, some flags that happened that allowed the other team a little bit easier march to the end zone. Mm-hmm. And so you look at these factors and you go, oh, these guys they're going to come back. I feel good with that. And then you got a better number. Right. I mean, you could actually maybe even bet money line, which I normally do in that situation instead of laying points. Because if you're down by 10, you're just wanting them to win the game. And then so that's why I do that. And then sometimes you'll not bet on it and then it won't go your way, which you're saying, dang, I wish I would have bet on this before the game, but that's part of the, it's not an exact science, so it's called gambling.
In hindsight's 2020, and in the in-play betting, as you've mentioned many times, it's better to do it through the app because you've got your finger on the button ready to go, as opposed to in person at the sports book where there may be a line of people and you just can't get it in
Exactly.
time. So
exactly.
definitely something to consider. Now, something that we do for our free preview watchers and listeners, we like to give what we call our kickoff pick. It is a freebie, gives you guys a chance to see if you like what we have to offer. And then, of course, you can always opt in for the Patreon subscriptions in any of the different levels if you like, again, what we have to offer. So our kickoff pick today is the Seahawks. You've got them plus 5.5 against the Green Bay Packers. And this could be an interesting one in that Aaron Rodgers is back, but he's had fewer practice reps.
He's getting 0.
He's had this whole sort of media thing hanging over his head the whole time. And, Seattle Seahawks, we don't know yet if Russell Wilson's going to be back.
He is. He's slated to start.
Interesting. How long he'll be able to stick in there, or if Geno Smith will come in as a reliever. But, Seahawks plus 5.5 with the Packers at home. How do you see that one playing out?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Russell Wilson should be good to go. As you also know, that's number 5.5. I have not had any luck this year when I'm laying 5.5 points. So that was the first thing. I was like, uh-oh. And then, but when I got the information that Russell Wilson was going to be there, factoring in the whole Aaron Rodgers debacle with COVID, he's only going to be able to come back to the team on Saturday. And do you know what they're doing on Saturday? Walkthroughs.
Exactly.
It's not really a practice. They may adjust it, something like that, but you're wanting to rest the players. So they're just counting on the fact that Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how, but I would imagine that they are somehow getting him the game plan. I don't know what the rules are of contact, if he can't have any contact with the team and stuff like that. But on the COVID side, it's pretty interesting that the Packers got fined $300,000.
They did finally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
last I saw it was just Rodgers being fined 14 and change, and that was sort of a slap on the wrist.
Lazard got fined.
Interesting.
So yeah, 14 and a half, I think, 14.5 thousand. Is that a thing? 14.5 thousand?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that the last thing that kind of made me feel good about this number was the fact that the Seahawks were on a bye.
Exactly.
So they're coming off a bye. They've had a lot of rest. They've actually played well against the Packers before. And I see this as a field goal game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks did win, but I still see the Packers probably pulling it out, but I think it'll be less than 5 points.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Now, the only other factor, the sort of uncalculable factors, are the Seahawks have lost their last 9 games that they've played in Lambeau.
Yeah.
Are they due, or does the trend continue?
Right, and that's another thing. I bet they know that. And they're still going to Lambeau at a time. It's not winter, cold, old man winter, dealing with snow and sleet and rain and stuff like that. So it should be, pretty good weather. And the Lambeau Field actually does have, I don't know if you knew that, but they have like the coal, the heated coals and stuff like that. And they'll be kind of comfortable as possible on the sideline. So it should be a really good game. Looking at the schedule, I mean, it's one of the premier, I think, games of the week. I mean, even the Chiefs Raiders, of course, that's a divisional game. But I think that with Russell Wilson coming back, the whole COVID thing with Aaron Rodgers, I think a lot of eyes will be on it.
Oh, I definitely agree. And folks, so that does do that. Wow, words are hard today. That does do it for our kickoff pick for today. Again, if you like what we have to say, head over to Patreon at patreon.com/YouBetYourAss and subscribe. For as little as $3 a month, you get 4 weeks of picks, the entire slate, the entire rundown. That's for the audio-only podcast. For $5 a month, it's audio and video. And then for $10 a month, you get the audio, the video, the bonus bets that you do each week, and then my insights into, it's funny, I always forget how I put it. It is, Of course, I don't
Bust
have
them
it
or
as a-
bench them or something like that?
Bunch them, bench them, bust them. Basically, who to start, who to sit for
Yeah.
your fantasy football team. And not to toot my own horn, but I have the highest points in our league right now. So, doing pretty well. you know.
Nice.
So it's what I enjoy, and the betting side is. It's fun, but I love digging into the fantasy side. And when there's a little bit of money on the line with the league, it makes it even that much more.
Do you do the FanDuel thing?
We do FanDuel salary cap league, and then we've got 20 people within our league that we all play against each week. And
20 people?
Yeah.
Wow.
We do a playoff. We do a Super Bowl matchup. And
20 people. So you have 20 rounds during the draft.
So
Oh, that's right. It's like
Salary
every week
cap.
you pick your own. That's
each
right.
week it's different. Makes it so much easier than the 20 rounds and trying to figure out the draft and all of that. So
Yeah, I think the draft thing, of course, it's been a few years since I've done it, but that was fun because it was a party.
always.
It was a big party, and I preferred somewhere between an 8 to 10 owner fantasy. Once you get to 12, it's especially they had 14. It kind of dilutes the players. That you have the challenge once you've gotten through about 7 or 8 rounds.
Especially when you're
they're sparse picking.
Yeah, picking quarterbacks. I mean, there's basically 32 to choose from. Everybody gets a backup, and so that's where it's tough. That's where I love the salary cap leagues. The other thing that's really nice about it is we have people from all across the country, so it's not like everybody has to get together.
Right.
It's all done virtually.
Yep.
So makes it a lot of fun.